Jack Morrison sat in the dimly lit cafe on Station Artemis 7, his fingers drumming nervously against the metal table. 3 years. It had been 3 years since Emma died defending the colony on Proxima 3, and his friends had finally convinced him it was time to move on. A blind date, they'd said. Just coffee. Nothing serious. He checked his chronometer again. She was late. When the door hissed open, Jack's heart stopped. The woman who walked through was Emma, same silver-blue skin that shimmered under artificial light. Same 4 elegant fingers on each hand. Same way of tilting her head when scanning a room. She was Valkorian just like Emma had been. Jack Morrison? Her voice even had that same melodic quality, though the accent was different. He managed a nod, his throat suddenly dry. Lyra? Yes. She smiled, revealing the characteristic triple row of teeth that Valkorians possessed. On Emma, he'd found it beautiful. On this stranger, it felt like a wound reopening. I hope I didn't keep you waiting long. The transport from the diplomatic quarter was delayed. She sat across from him, her movements graceful and deliberate, exactly like Emma's had been. Jack felt himself retreating inward, his military training kicking in assess. Analyze, survive. So, Lyra began, studying him with those large, dark eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Your friends tell me you're a veteran of the Krell Wars. That must have been difficult. It was war, Jack said flatly. Difficult doesn't cover it. She didn't flinch at his tone. Instead, she leaned forward slightly. I lost my brother in those wars. He was a medical officer on the VNS Harmony, the ship that evacuated human civilians from New Bangalore when the Krell siege lines broke. Jack knew that ship. He'd provided ground cover for that evacuation, holding a defensive perimeter for 16 hours straight while civilian transports lifted off. The Harmony had taken heavy fire extracting the last group. He'd watched it limp away, trailing plasma and atmosphere, wondering if it would make it to the jump point. Did he make it? Jack asked quietly. Barely. He saved 237 human children that day before the ship's medical bay was hit. Lyra's voice remained steady, but her skin flickered a Valkorian stress response Emma had taught him to recognize. He's still in regeneration therapy. They say he'll never walk again without assistance. The silence stretched between them. Jack had come here expecting to politely endure an awkward hour before making excuses to leave. He hadn't expected this. I'm sorry, he said, and meant it. Lyra nodded. I'm told that's insufficient in human culture, but in mine, loss is loss. We carry it and continue forward. There's no other choice. She paused, then added, Your friends also mentioned you lost someone. A Valkorian woman named Emma. Jack's jaw tightened. They had no right. They care about you, Lyra interrupted gently. That much was obvious. They're worried. She studied him for a long moment. I remind you of her, don't I? That's why you look like you're about to bolt through the nearest airlock. He couldn't deny it. You could be her sister, I see. Lyra sat back, her expression thoughtful. Would you like me to leave? I understand if this is too much. Jack opened his mouth to say yes, to end this torture, to retreat back into the safe cocoon of grief and memories. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way she'd offered him an out without judgment. Maybe it was learning about her brother's sacrifice. Maybe it was just that he was tired of being alone. No, he said finally. Stay, please. Over the next hour they talked. Not about Emma directly, but about everything else. Lyra was a xenocultural liaison working to rebuild diplomatic relationships that had fractured during the wars. She told him about her work mediating disputes between human and Valkorian traders, about the small victories, a handshake agreement here, a successful negotiation there, that was slowly knitting their species back together. Jack found himself talking about his new job as a security consultant, helping design defensive systems for mixed species colonies. He told her about the nightmares that still came sometimes, about the therapy sessions he attended twice a week, about learning to live with the fact that he'd survived when so many hadn't. Emma used to say that humans were stubborn, Lyra said at one point, a hint of amusement in her voice. She said you'd crawl through broken glass to save someone, even if they'd never thank you for it. Jack froze. You knew Emma? Briefly. We served together on a relief mission to Ganymede Station, just before Proxima 3. Lyra's skin shimmered with something that might have been sadness. She talked about you constantly. The brave, stubborn human who'd argued with her for 3 hours about proper field medicine protocols during the Battle of Kepler 442. Despite himself, Jack laughed a real laugh, the first in months. She was using combat stimulants wrong. I had to intervene before she accidentally gave herself cardiac arrest. She said you were insufferable, Lyra replied, smiling. She also said she loved you more than the stars themselves. The words hit Jack like a physical blow, but not painfully. It felt like ... permission. Permission to remember the joy alongside the grief. Permission to acknowledge that Emma would have wanted him to live, not just survive. This is probably the worst blind date in history, Jack said finally. Lyra laughed. They sound like wind chimes in a solar breeze. Undoubtedly. Should we try for a second one anyway? Perhaps we could aim for merely awkward instead of disastrous. Jack considered her offer. She wasn't Emma, she would never be Emma, but maybe that was okay. Maybe moving forward didn't mean forgetting. Maybe it meant carrying the past with honor while still reaching toward the future. Coffee again? He asked. There's this terrible human diner on the lower decks that serves something approximating breakfast food. Fair warning, humans have questionable taste in morning cuisine. I've survived human military rations, Lyra said, standing. I think I can handle breakfast. As they walked out of the cafe together, Jack realized something. Emma would have liked Lyra. She would have appreciated her directness, her compassion, her willingness to bridge the gaps between their species. And more than that, Emma would have wanted this for him, not replacement. But continuation. The station's artificial stars twinkled overhead as they made their way through the corridors. Two souls carrying their losses together, walking toward an uncertain but hopeful tomorrow. Some blind dates ended in disaster. This one, against all odds, felt like a beginning.